Hello. I hope that this video finds you well. It's hard to believe that a year has gone by since our Warmth for Ukraine project. I hope that you got our thank you notes for your generous gifts last fall. Today, I wanted to reach out with this personal video to simply say thank you. Thank you so very much for being a hero to global humanitarian assistance and to me, but more importantly, for being a hero for Ukraine. You may not have thought about yourself that way, but I want to assure you that you truly are a hero. Whether you donated socks to keep feet warm, generators for people who have had no electricity, shelf-stable food for those in most dire need of something to eat, thermal underwear for the cold Ukrainian winter, hats and gloves and scarves to keep warm, EMS kits to provide aid to those injured, cash donations which we used to help folks who didn't have a job, or your time and talent as our partner. You made a difference, and you are a hero. I also want to show you some pictures and give you an idea of the help that you provided. You sent over 4,000 pairs of socks. Think about that. That's 4,000 people who had warm feet. You sent over 300 meals. Meals that were shelf-stable and could be used in areas where no other food was available, especially near the front line of fighting. Over 150 coats, warm winter coats for those whose homes were bombed and who had no warm clothing. Numerous hats and scarves and gloves, warm blankets or sleeping bags for those many nights when Ukraine had no power because their power grid was targeted by an airstrike. Some of you worked hard to help us set up a charitable foundation in Poland and to obtain registrations with the EU, and you did that work pro bono. Your work helped us help another organization that needed assistance with logistics to send almost $250,000 of medical aid to Ukraine. Finally, your cash donations helped us provide a job for over 60 full-time equivalent months. Due to the war and the millions of internally displaced individuals, Ukraine has an unemployment rate of over 24%. That employment helped 10 families and over 40 people. In everything global humanitarian assistance has done, we have tried to help Ukrainians. For instance, we employed a displaced Ukrainian person to design our website. His wife, Eugenia, a wonderful graphics artist, created videos for our social media. She also gave us some of her art to use for our thank you cards, and we hope you enjoyed those. We employed other designers in Lviv to assist with social media, and we hired 3 project managers in Lviv and Vinnytsia to assist us with our operations. These are just a few examples of many where we chose to help Ukraine in everything that we do. But none of this would have been possible without our hero and Ukraine's hero, you. I also want to tell you that every dollar that you donated went to help Ukraine. Now, every charity has expenses, and we're no different, but one of our directors paid all of the overhead and non-program expenses to ensure that all of your generous cash donations went to help Ukrainians. In April, on your behalf, I went to Ukraine. Thanks to Delta's frequent flyer program, I was able to basically travel for free. I had been saving those sky miles for decades for a once-in-a-lifetime trip. And I have to say, it was a wonderful way to use some of those miles. Thank you, Delta Airlines, for making that trip possible. Visiting Ukraine was a life-changing experience. First, every single person I told about you and your assistance said to tell you, thank you. This wasn't just those I met in Ukraine. In Berlin, for instance, I was staying at a hostel. I met a Swiss man who was there with a group of kids on an athletic team trip. He and I talked about your donations, and he said, please tell them thank you. Americans are making such a difference for Ukraine. Please tell them on behalf of Europeans, thank you. And every single Ukrainian I met, from the women waiting for the train from Przemysl, Poland, to Kyiv, to our team in Kyiv, and members of an NGO we are teaming with, and even a soldier named Konstantin, who I met in Bucha, where so many civilians were murdered, expressed deep thanks for your kindness. Konstantin put it succinctly. He said, I believe God sent you here for us, so we can know we are not alone, and so we can tell you to say thank you to our heroes. My trip to Kyiv was humbling, and it changed my life, and I'll send you another video about that soon. But let me tell you just a little bit now. On the overnight train from Przemysl, Poland to Kyiv, I met Olga. We spent a lot of time talking because it's a long train ride. Olga was working in Germany with her new husband when the invasion occurred. This was her first time returning to Ukraine in 2 years. Olga grew up in Bucha, where her parents had lived until the invasion, where many of her friends still lived. Her parents now live in Kyiv because the Russians destroyed her childhood home, and I got to meet them when we got to the station in Kyiv. She told me about having friends who were killed by Russian soldiers, friends who had been raped and assaulted, friends who had been kept in a basement dungeon during the Russian occupation of Bucha, about friends whose children had been abducted and trafficked to Russia. You've read about the horrors. I heard about them firsthand from Olga and several people in Bucha I got to talk to. I visited the mass graves. I saw them myself. I saw the bombed-out houses, the bullet-strewn buildings, the road and the bridge that had been dropped by the Ukrainian military to stop the Russian advance. But what she said that stopped me in my tracks was this. She said, I was lucky. I'm only now going back for the first time since the war started. But I have a lot of survivor guilt because so much terror and death has happened to my family and friends. But I'm lucky because in Germany, I can get mental health care. Mental health care is simply not available in Ukraine, like it is in Europe or America. Later in my trip, I met Ionitz, who runs an NGO we are teaming with. He said, there are huge charitable organizations pouring up to $50 million a program into Ukraine. But while the work they are doing is important, the way they have scaled their programs means that they are missing a lot of displaced refugees who need help. Among these are children who are the most at risk. They are the innocent victims who have witnessed the horrors of war no child should see. Murders committed in front of them. Murder victims left for weeks in the streets during Russian occupation. Family members shot. Mothers raped in front of them. Fathers who have left to fight and returned in a wooden box. They have been kept against their will in Russian dungeons during the occupation. They've had to run to bomb shelters, hearing inbound missiles aimed at their towns. They've spent nights in cold subways, which are bomb shelters. Their schools have been bombed, and now for safety, many have to attend school underground. I watched a news video last week which talked about the underground schools. One young girl said, "But Mommy, how will we hear the air raid sirens if we are underground at school?" So young, she didn't really understand. She was probably about 5, 6, 7 years old, but she had been living so long with air raid sirens that she said that. So we are starting Operation Restore Hope, a program to provide child-safe spaces in schools, dedicated areas where children can process the trauma that they've experienced. These are special spaces with both individual and group activities which keep children involved, keep them expressing their fears, their grief, and loss. Spaces where they relearn non-aggressive play, and spaces where they can heal. But Operation Restore Hope isn't just about safe physical spaces and activities. Our program also trains teachers to be the first line of mental health care. These teachers are trained by specially trained trauma psychologists, and these teachers can help provide mental health care and also provide triage to identify the children most at risk. Operation Restore Hope also provides professional trained psychologists and social workers to work with these children in small groups or one-on-one if needed. Finally, it provides the integrated case management necessary to ensure that no child falls through the cracks, that every child who needs care gets care. So in the weeks ahead, I will send you some more details about Operation Restore Hope. I'll explain how you can form a group of heroes and adopt a school in Ukraine, how you can participate from the United States or Europe, how you can work with us to choose the school, how you can see the new child safe space and maybe even go to Ukraine if you choose, or visit by video that you create, how you can meet the children of your adopted school and maybe introduce your children to a child in Ukraine, how you can help work with Eugenia to design a plaque to be placed in your adopted school, and how you can ensure that children of your school get the help that they so desperately need. We are really excited about Operation Restore Hope. I hope that you'll want to learn more. Again, I'm so thankful for you, our heroes. Thank you for all that you have done. Thank you for the love that you've shown, and thank you for the difference that you have made for Ukraine.